Hello, and welcome to today's Coppice Dev stream. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Martin Pokington. I run a small software company called MCube Software, and when I'm not doing contract work for other people, I'm working on my own app, Coppice, a indie app for the Mac that lets you collect your thoughts and ideas, link them together, and visually lay them out on a ever-expanding canvas. And today we're going to be continuing working through some of the image linking functionality that I have been working on the past few streams. We're first going to be finishing up some unit tests and then get into actually implementing something, and then hopefully once that is done we can maybe see if we can get some actual UI working so we can see something a bit visual. So before we get started, there are a few small changes that you may have noticed. If you didn't catch Friday's stream, you may not have noticed the brand new starting soon screen, but we now have a brand new overlay which I was working on over the weekend. So some of this is the same, most of the area down the bottom is the same, but you'll notice that we now have this fancy new sidebar on the left, which now shows at the top there's sort of a highlights reel where it will go through various bits of information about the stream and some videos of Coppice. We've got the chat now visible on screen, and we have our tasks at the bottom, which I actually need to update. So let's go and update some of these. Alright, so first we need finish up tests, implement angle hotspot, that's down a bit, and hotspot Y. Hi Sinister, glad you can make it to the stream. How are you doing today? Are you up to anything? I loved the model you made of Martina's animator that was showed off this morning. That was pretty fantastic. Oh, just getting through some uni work. Yeah, it's a struggle getting through uni work. I remember having to do that myself, and it's can be a bit of a slog at times. But hopefully, it's going fairly well for you. And I'm not too bad. I've spent this morning getting various bits and pieces done. Went shopping and so on and got all that out the way so that I can spend the afternoon coding. I've done a bit of work on the unit tests here. I did some work yesterday, and hopefully I can get these finished up, which hopefully shouldn't take too long. And then we can get on to some of the fun stuff, which is actually making these unit tests pass and making the unit and then getting onto the UI. So we'll see how that works. So what I have been working on are these new unit tests. So I've implemented all the basic unit tests for doing hit test, and hit test is essentially determining, okay, what is the, is a certain point inside this hotspot? I've also done some of the basic things where we're returning paths and rectangles and stuff. And now I'm getting onto the interesting stuff, which is how we actually change things. And this is actually been a good example of how to do unit tests in a fairly reasonable way, because I've got a lot of unit tests to do where I need to test, like if you're dragging the top left or the bottom left points, if you drag it to the left, is it actually going to decrease the X position? But if I bring up Photoshop, I can draw how all these are actually meant to work. What I could really do is find a way to hook this up to my iPad so I can bring up a screen with my iPad so I can do these sorts of sketches on there rather than having to do it with a mouse and keyboard. But if you have your rectangle there that's not very rectangle, if you select, say, this corner and you move it this way, we need to make sure that our X value decreases, because this is 0, 0. We need to make sure our X value decreases, but also that the width increases. Because if you move it this way, then it's going to end up being this big. If you move it to the right, we need to make sure that it does the same thing, where it increases the Y, increases the X, and decreases the width. But then I've decided there's not going to be a minimum. You're going to be able to drag this and go beyond here, and it should just start moving here. And at that point, you need something else to happen, which is this now becomes the origin, and that's fixed, and all we're changing is the width. So you need to work on all that, and also have it where you hold the Option key down, and it's going to actually, if you drag to the left, it's also going to expand to the right over the center point. So I've got unit tests. All of this are doing the left points, both top and bottom. And the way I've done this is that, I mean, maybe look at this and seeing where we're creating the hotspot, and then we're checking. So where's the actual testing going on? And I've got this function up here that creates a hotspot. I can pass in a shape, I can pass in the mode, and it will create the hotspot for me with a standard rectangle with a standard image size. But then if you pass in one of these test drag structs, you can pass in a start point, a delta for it to move in the X and Y, a second delta for it to do a second drag move, and any modifiers. And what this basically does is it calls our down event, our dragged event, potentially a second dragged event, and an up event. Actually, I've just realized they need to be not equal to rather than greater than, because you can have negative deltas. And actually does all those events. So when you get the hotspot back, it's already done those drags, which helps quite a bit, because it means that we can keep these very simple, very compact, and it makes the test just a lot easier to write, because what I have in here is basically okay, this is what is specific about this test, and this is the final state I'm testing, and the actual test is all abstracted away. Oh, I'm glad you like the new overlay, Sinister. Yeah, it took a little bit of time to plan out and work out, but it's actually been pretty good, and it's been fun getting it all worked out how I'm actually doing it. I actually have the tasks of a screen capture. I've got some outlining software, so I've got a screen capture of that. I'm using stream elements for the chat, and then up here is just a video that I ended up creating in Keynote in some presentation software to actually just show some videos and move between various things. So that'll work. And the good news is, if I need to get it out of the way, I've got a button here on my Stream Deck and it just slides out the way. But for most of the time, you don't need to see this stuff on the left hand side, so we can have that up showing everything that we need. I have also, what I can show you is I've updated the alerts as well. So if I go to Stream Elements, just log in and go to my dashboard, I can actually do some where are we? Elements, my overlay, alerts. If I emulate some alerts, if I emulate a follow alert, I've now used the emotes down at the bottom. So a follower alert just shows a nice happy face. A subscriber alert will show the very pleased face. And on the off chance that I get a raid, very worried face because I'm getting some new viewers in. So just tweaking various bits and pieces like that over time. It's just fun to play around with, see what I can do, see what I can do to make it more interesting to look at visually, and hopefully get more people clicking on and taking a look and seeing what the stream is about. I've also I can't remember, were you here at the weekend when I was tweaking all my various expressions so they now all blink? And I also have what I'm quite pleased with how it worked out was the slight lightening and darkening of the screen so that my little sleep version is breathing. I think they've all ended up quite good. Like I said, the sleep one is quite nice. The very pleased one isn't too bad. The confused one looks pretty good. My favourite is probably the angry one. But everything's a lot tidier. You'll notice that bits aren't jumping all over the place anymore. So I think it's turned out pretty good. I've just got to remember to actually use them when things happen. I often get into a mood where it's like, I'm a bit confused by this, and then I don't bother switching over to my confused face. So that's something that I'm still getting used to. Yeah, at some point I would like to maybe have the arms flail about a bit on here. I mean, it would be cool to get them to sort of animate out and animate back in and stuff like that, but that's stuff I can work out in the future. I mean, my next task is to start building up a bit more on the YouTube side. At the moment I'm just uploading the VODs, but I would like to upload like smaller clips of things, because people see like a 2, 3, 4 hour stream and it may not be as interesting. So if I can cut out some of the more interesting bits to make them more bite-sized chunks, I think that'll help there as well. But I think the stream's really coming together quite well, so I'm quite happy with it. So let's get moving on to some more of these tests. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to open this file twice, because a lot of this is going to be copy pasting. So now we want resizing right, which is going to be, our stop point is now going to be our max X rather than our min X. And if you're moving the right point to the right, we want to increase the delta. This should leave the X where it is, but increase the width. Be 90. Then for this one, let's copy this over. No, because this is actually going to be a bit different. So we'll copy paste this. So if you move to the left beyond that, so let's say 120, the X should be 30, and the width should be 120. And we want our second delta X 10. Actually, all these delta Y zeros we can get rid of, because they should be default parameters. Place all on there. Second delta X is 10, so now this should move back to being 40, 40, and 10. So, not resizing beyond the image bounds, that one is fairly simple to do. All we want to do is actually want to resizing left. So we'll set this to minus 200, that to minus 200, and you just want to make these 0, 0, 150, 150, and same here. Move it by 60 because we've got 200. We've basically got a 200 by 200 image, and we stuck a hotspot at 50, 50, 100 points, so it's like 50 margin all the way around. So if we do that, that's moving it all the way over to the right hand side. That should leave our X at its origin, but increase the width to 150. And if we do this, now we're resizing to the right, and we're going to have option held. And what this means is, if we move to the point to the right by 10 points, we want to move the origin to the left by 10 points as well. And the width is going to increase by twice the distance we move, because we're resizing around the center point. And the way this will work is that if you start dragging and then hold option and continue dragging, it will then switch to going around the original center point. That is thankfully what I want, but it's also a byproduct of how we will actually implement this. Right, and does not allow resizing in view mode. We will copy this again. Just swap that to be positive and negative for the different ones, and then we'll switch this to view, and that should say 50, 50, 100, 100. I have a feeling that the music app is going to stop playing the music halfway through because I tried using shortcuts at the weekend to automate a bunch of stuff. And shortcuts on the Mac is... I mean, calling it still a work in progress would be kind of nice. I created... In fact, I can show you the... if I can show you the shortcuts that I set up. So I have a basic one here. Start stream music. Play my stream playlist. Shuffle the songs. Repeat all. Now it does seem to be shuffling it. It does play the playlist, but last time it did not repeat. Okay. Well, you've managed 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Then we get onto this, which is what I've set up for doing all of my, like I press this and this will do half of my tidy up before I stream. So I want to turn my streaming focus on, so that stops all notifications and everything. I want to quit things like Mail and Discord and Firefox and stuff. I want to open OBS and ViadoTube Mini. I want to make sure ViadoTube Mini is positioned correctly. I may end up setting up more of these that positions OBS correctly and all my other windows on my other display correctly. And then I had to move some more quit apps down here, and then it opens like the rest of my pre-stream checklist. Now the reason some of these moved down here is because it gets stuck on some of these quit app ones. But even worse, if some of these apps are not open, the quit app action launches the app so it can quit it. Like I know how to quit apps using like code, how to tell the system quit this particular app. I'm pretty sure it takes more effort to open the app before you quit it. I mean, there are even worse things where if you search for an app, there's little things like they've not done. Let's show this and you can see. Let's add a quit app, and if I do choose. So first off, search field is not it doesn't look like a proper search field. The second one, if I search for like Photoshop, notice how these rows are not the same height as these rows. Well, they should be, because all the other rows that have content in are the same. So why have they not bothered with that? And then the other thing I learned is that when they search for applications, there are many places on the Mac you can put applications. There is /applications, which is at the root of your computer. It's where most of your applications go, and that is where this searches. However, there are other standard places. For example, there's an applications folder in your users folder for any user specific applications. This doesn't search there. If you have applications dotted around in random places, you can't automate them with this because there's no like choose file path option. So it's just one of those things of I literally used this for 5 minutes and I found 3 bugs, and they're all really simple basic things that just like, this is like several versions on now. They've had a chance to improve it, so it's like, if it's this bad now, how bad was it when it first released? And it's certainly I mean, if they get it working, it's fantastic. Like when you actually get it working and you work around the quirks and you ignore all the UI flaws, it is actually pretty good. But the problem is it's not there. Oh, hi Moshobi, welcome back to the stream. And yeah, it is Apple. I don't think it's only them releasing unfinished work. It's also Well, I mean, it is, but it's not just shortcuts being unfinished work. The issue is that with shortcuts, they basically redid it all using Swift UI, and this is the first app where they've really gone all in on Swift UI. And the problem is Swift UI on the Mac is very much unfinished work, and there's lots of stuff that it does not do correctly, lots of stuff that you should be getting automatically, which you don't. And yeah, it's been one of those things of it's like, oh, this is SwiftUI, we're going to show how great SwiftUI is for building all these things. And then it actually turns out that it's still not there on the Mac, even after several versions. And it's like, you can do it for a few bits and pieces here and there, but a lot of stuff would work a lot better. I mean, it's stuff like down here, why do you have these massive margins around here? And well, you could get rid of there's a lot of stuff that is just, it feels like they didn't have Mac developers building this. It felt like they brought iOS developers across, and it's like, you can build things, you can add stuff in for the Mac, but you need to know all the little details like you do on any platform, and it feels like they don't quite know those details. And it does feel like, at least in terms of the product side of things, Catalyst is getting a lot more attention. Maybe on like the development side, SwiftUI is getting more attention, but in terms of like the product side, Catalyst is being used a lot more and is being a lot more successful because it's a lot more mature, whereas SwiftUI is still very, very new and very flaky in many places, and hopefully it will improve, and hopefully now Apple actually has products they are shipping, they'll start to see it improve, but it's going to take a while, and Shortcuts has a lot of potential. It's just a mess of usability at the moment, but hopefully it does improve, because when it is working, this is more than I've ever done in Automator or AppleScript. So this is more automation than I've done in anything else. So I would like to get it to work. They've just got a lot to do to fix things. And the good news is they do seem to be fixing things bit by bit. Right, so let's get back to unit tests. Unfortunately, this is not the most interesting part of the stream, because this bit is me copy pasting stuff. I was wanting to get this done before the stream, but unfortunately I never actually had time to completely finish this. I managed to get all the stubs done and some of the basic stuff done in the first lot of these tests, but I mean, we're already at 500 lines of tests, and half of these just fail automatically, so and I haven't actually written any of the real code yet. So we need to rename these to left hotspot and right hotspot. We want to be on the NY max X, and if we move up, the Y should become 40. Right, let's set those to 100 and then we'll copy. Because then we can set 40, 40, 110, 110. We do here, and we're going to set this to 10, at which point this becomes 60 and 110, no, 90. So how are you doing today, Monsieur B? Are you having a good day? By the way, if anyone else has any questions about what I'm doing, just about developing for the Mac in general or for iOS or anything, feel free to ask them in the chat and I'll try to answer them as I go along. I've just realised I've been on the angry face all this time, so I should really have switched that back to something a bit more welcoming. Oh, back in Amsterdam, back to work. Oh, I hope the weather in Amsterdam is a bit better than it is here, because it's we had a very nice sunny weekend and now it is miserable and raining here, so quintessential Monday here in the north of England. $150 because going beyond and we need to get the max. And because of a second delta x of I've just realised these all need to be delta y. Oh, it's super sunny there. So you must have got all of the nice sunny weather that we had over the weekend, and we have got the next wave of storms coming in. I mean, it wasn't too bad this morning, but it's definitely got very glum and rainy outside today. Resizing top does not allow resizing up beyond image bound. This wants to be minus 60. Oh, 0, 50. Plus 50. Oh, have I? Right. I have not. What's the might be on page bound? That's right. So the right. If you go that way, it should be there. This one, the x is 0, the y is 50, but the width is 15. Oh, you've added me to your Discord announcements. Oh, thank you very much. What is your Discord? Is it something that anyone can join? Because if so, feel free to link it in the chat. I haven't got a bot set up yet, so and that's the next thing that I need to work on. But for anyone who wants to, go give. Oh, not working. Don't know why I cannot paste into the chat in OBS. But yeah, go give Monsieur B a follow. They're another streamer doing like iOS software development and design and so on. So go give them a follow and check them out. It's been fun over the weekend, finding all sorts of people who are also doing streaming and following them and chatting to them. So it's great, like seeing that there's a community here already and being able to like start joining it, because I had no idea that most of this existed already. I thought I was one of the first ones coming in, so it's great to see that more people are doing it already, have experience doing it already, and are so friendly and welcoming, and it's great to see, and hopefully we can see more and more people join and share their knowledge and share working on their apps. Right. Oh, you have to go for a meeting. I'm going until at least 5 p.m. UK time, so I believe that's 6 p.m. your time. I may even be going a bit longer, so it may be until about 6 p.m. UK time, so 7 p.m. in Europe, just so I can see if I can catch some people waking up on the west coast of the US. But hope your meeting goes well, and hopefully you'll be back in a bit. Alright, so holding option while resizing. Yeah. Paste. Yeah, so this one should stay at 100, 100, because I'm going to switch to new mode. This one, on the other hand, we're going to add our modifier. Which means that this should be... I've been editing width. Height should be 120. The Y should be 40. Minus 10. I have been... I've been doing X again. Oh, that's why I've copied these from the wrong spot. Okay. Left hotspot. And right hotspot. Left hotspot. Right hotspot. Right. Try this again. Last one. This is such boring work at times, doing unit tests, but it's a necessary evil. It does help give me a lot more confidence in being able to make sure my code is working and stays working. It's just a lot of copy paste stuff, so resizing at the bottom, we want to do minus 200. Actually, no, we don't. Do minus 120. This is not going to the bounds. This checking it goes beyond. Point, we should be at 50, 30. The height should be 20. Should be 50, 30. The height is 20. And this should be 40, 40, height is 10. So I want to size down. The wire should stay at 50, the height should be 150 up. The height is 50, the wire is now 0 because we've gone minus. Size down, holding option. That should give the same rectangle there, and then finally if we do it with view, that should be okay. And then what we need to do is change all the I need to, well, be min and be max min. Okay, let's see, we haven't, oh, we have made a compiler error somewhere. Where is this? That should be min max. Let this build through, and most of our tests are failing. Okay, so what else do we have to do? We've got some edge cases that we need to handle. So what is going to happen here is there's not going to be a minimum size, but if it does get too small, then effectively, I mean, the minimum size is going to be 1. Not going to allow it to get to 0, 0. But if it does get too small, effectively what it will do is it will, if the height gets too small, it will always favor the bottom handle. So you're always resizing like down if you drag down. And if it gets, the width gets too small, it will always favor the right handle. So in theory, if you have like a 1x1 hotspot and you click and drag, you're dragging the bottom right handle. So that should hopefully give the best behavior. It doesn't make sense for hotspots to really be that small, because practically you don't really want to be clicking on a single pixel, but if people want them to be that small, they can be. And the other thing is, I mean, the thing to take into account here is that these points are defined in image space. So you have the image size, and like this here is 50-50 from the image's origin with 100 by 100. But the thing is, if the user is scaling things up, then let's say the image is on a canvas and is shown twice the size, then technically that's going to be on the view 100 by, and it's going to be 200 by 200 in size. And the decision I've made is that the view is going to have to translate. So when it gets a mouse event in, it is going to have to scale that down to the image size so it is in the correct place. This does mean that we end up with fractional points on here, but they will be rounded by the view when drawing. So it should look okay, you shouldn't get any blurriness, but this is very much trying to allow the user to resize, but trying not to make this bit too complicated. Like the view can handle that. It's complication has to be there, it's just neatly tucked away in another part of the app. So we favour the bottom handle if it's too small. How are we actually going to test this? I think these are going to have to be something that we test sort of. I think this is going to be something we test manually, sort of. I suppose let's just add a rect argument. Makes stuff easier. CG rect. 50, 50, 100. So they all should still work. Helps if I type things out correctly. So hotspot self.create hotspot. Okay. Edit. Rect. CG rect. do it 50-50, but the width can be 100, but the height is going to be 1. Mode edit, and the drag is best drag. So we're going to do min, so this is basically doing the upper left. So we're going to try clicking where the top one should be, see that it is the bottom that is done. So we'll do that. You've got your start point. I'm going to delta Y. We're going to do 10. And what that should do, left hotspot dot rect should equal be 50, 50, 111. And we can do this again for the right. Where it should be exactly the same, except on here in the max. Going to do the same here, except this is going to be for the top and bottom. The height is going to be 100, but the width is 11. Because the width is going to be 1, height is going to be want the min X, because again we want to be going for the left hand side, but making sure that it is the right hand side that is clicked. So that is done. Alright. So what we're going to do is create our hotspot. Shape is going to be oval. CG rect is just going to be 0 because we're creating this. Actually, no. The rect should be making it. Let's do rect. Let's do 30-40, but the size is going to be 0 for now. Mode is going to be create, and the image size is going to be size 200. 200. I'm going to do created hotspot dot down event at CG point $40, no modifiers, on event. Oh, that and get that up event, and make sure that our created hotspot.rect is equal to CG rect, and this is going to be 30-40 20 wide, 100 tall. Do the same again, except we're going to check that the mode is edit. We have moving and selecting left, and then we'll take a quick break once we've got these done before starting on the enjoyable bit. So for those of you that have stuck with me through the boring bit, we have some interesting stuff coming up. Unfortunately, we're going to have to basically do all this again for the polygon, but let's have some fun before then. So if you're dragging inside the hotspot path, but not the editing handle rect, moves the hotspot. So let's add the editing rect, but not in the editing bounds. I have no idea what I was meaning by that, so let's get move hotspot equals image editor, single hotspot, shape oval, vet, okay, about mode is edit. Oh, no, we didn't want to do that. Create, oval, edit, and our drag is going to be a test drag. We're going to start point X mid, Y mid, because I'm just going to click in this, test this. Do 10, 10. Don't care about the second deltas or the modifiers. Here we're just going to do xe equal move hotspot dot rect. Rect, and we've moved it by 10. We want to be 60, 60, 100, 100. Then we want to make sure that we can't move beyond the left bound, so we're going to do minus 60 and just do it like this. So this should be 0, 50. Beyond the top bound, we should be 50, 0, and then minus 60. Yeah, minus 60. I'm going to move plus 60, where this should be at 100. Then we're going to copy this, because if we go plus 60 there, now this should be 100. Then we're going to do this view mode, and it should be 50, 100 because it should be moved. I'm going to do the same in create mode because you shouldn't be able to move in create mode. Because you literally click and drag, and the minute that you have finished clicking and dragging, you are switching to edit mode. So that should be moving done, hopefully. Yeah, that all seems to have compiled. So selecting. We want this to also be a if drag dot delta x is not equal to 0 or delta y is not equal to 0, because then we can have a click in the same thing. So you can create a hotspot, in edit mode. Actually, I've just realised we need some more tests. Selecting. Can't select. Thinking about dragging in view mode. It does not select view mode. So, not going to do any delta there, we're just going to click in the middle. Is selected. So that's it to true if we do this while shift. Ooh. Not for anything other than the pass. Yeah, let's just do one test. I'm beginning to think that I don't think the shortcut is causing music to shuffle either. So that's yet another thing that shortcuts fails at. Sure, there'll be things that it actually does do correctly. They'll turn up at some point. Just searching for the things that it does correctly is searching for a needle in the haystack of wrongness. Right, so shift. So we're going to need a mock layout engine. Oh. Select all mock. This is how I do partial mocks with my mocking tool. Mock details, void, void. Use self.deselect all mock. Cold. Deselect all. Wait for the well. Mouse. These cases we can do false. Mode. I'll create mode. So build. Now I'm under no illusions that some of these tests may be broken. Like they may not work as corrected, they may be implemented incorrectly. But part of the reason for implementing all of these now is just to get it out of the way. I mean, this is a far cleaner set of unit tests than I was originally expecting to have. But what we'll do is it lets us start implementing our rectangle hotspot. And hopefully once that is implemented, we can then start looking at getting it hooked up, so at least rectangle and oval hotspots can be implemented, polygons, we're going to need a completely separate thing, which means a completely separate set of tests, because a lot of this logic does not carry over to polygons. But at least we'll have the view in place. So, and we'll have proofed out the actual infrastructure. So, yeah, so we're going to take a short break while I go and get a fresh drink and recover from having to write all those unit tests. And when we get back, we'll get onto the fun and interesting stuff. So I hope you are enjoying the stream so far, as dull as some of the coding has been. But it will get interesting in a little bit. So see you in a little bit. Okay, welcome back. I have a fresh drink and I'm ready to get started again. So, as we switch back over, we are going to shift our tests over to the right. And our image editor hotspot here. So let's work down from the top first. Want a hit test. So the most basic one is self.rect contains point. Okay. Right. So this is a question of how do I want to handle this? Suppose the question is, how does NS Bezier path? I do path with rect and point. Does that do the same thing? Okay, so that works as expected. So what we'll do is case now let's do a switch. So we're just in view mode. What we actually want to do is return self.hotspot path content. Otherwise, right, we'll fall back there, but right. Yeah, this should never be called. But then we want that. Union of an NS Bezier path. Yeah, a pen So self.editing handles rect dot for each append the rect, and then do self dot don't want that one. Yeah, we do want self. Yeah, we want editing bounds path dot contains. That should hopefully work. Let's see. Okay, that did not work. Let's take a look at this. Oh. Oh. Yeah, so helps if I implement stuff. Just need to return there. In this case, self.shape. No, we're not doing shape. This is self.mode. If we are in case view, turn nil. Otherwise, unless there's a path, yeah, rect, self.rect. So that should help some degree, but we then need to do the editing handle recs. But we'll make sure that working for the basic case, which it is not. Pattern with associated values does not match enum case create. What is the actual error? A missing semicolon. Which then appears down here. Yeah, we don't want private set. Question. What have I done wrong here? Oh. Because if you're ever asking what have I done wrong here when you have a compiler error, then it is the compiler that has messed up, not you. You should always be able to work out what has gone wrong by the compiler just telling you what has gone wrong and not giving you cryptic errors. Right. So that's fully working. And we're missing some of the things here. Oh, what? That failing. Just false leave it outside of ret and editing handles. Oh. We're in the middle there. Yeah, that needs to be 201. No. And 51. Alright, so let's try that. That one should hopefully fully pass now. Which it does. Okay, so we now need to do the editing handle. Switch, self.mode. Case dot view, create, return an empty. What we want to do here is turn off first rect, where the X is going to be in X, in Y, no, in X. So the handle offset goes self dot editing. Size handle resize handle size divided by 2. That should hopefully give us the correct resize handle. I say hopefully. Why is this complaining? Oh, because I need self.
Distant silhouettes at the horizon. Sing a still duet, affections tighten. Kindred ribbons spring us from our tether. Rivers drifting vivid and together.
I just
Stay by my side.
count them as inside now. Yeah, it does. So the oval's a bit more picky. But we have a working hit test method. Right, control point. 50-50 move to 150-50. Huh? Why are they not equal? Should be. It should. When we're getting some floating point maths, does it not actually do things correctly there? Or does it just do pointer equality? Oh, and then a specific path equality. Let's have a look. Yeah, I'm confused. Why would this not let me? Oh, okay. That path 1 equals this busy. Correct. Path 2 and path 1 equals path 2. False. That is equal. False. Okay. Yes, I cannot unit test those. I mean, you'd think an Ernest Bezier path, if all the control points are identical to reasonable accuracy, would determine that it's equal. I mean, that even work? Okay, so it's just doing pointer equality for Ernest Bezier path, which makes absolutely no sense unless it's just a performance thing. But I mean, if you've got them with identical control points, it should just work. You'd expect it to at least try. I mean, even if it isn't performant, you'd expect it to try and just leave it up to us as developers to deal with the fact that it isn't performant. Okay, so I guess delete those unit tests then. In the editing handle Rex we can do. But these we cannot. I mean, we can do return null in view mode. Also, we could do the bound, as we can get away with that, which should be. Hotspot ones we can't really do. What does that mean? Turns all tests then. Actually test it. Here to be. Let's clean and build. Right. Do a clean build and see what this does. Build success. So what on earth is close the project. Open the and then let's test. Oh, hi Uli, and welcome back, Mantra B. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention to chat. I was so engrossed in why on earth these tests seem to be messed up. Unit tests aren't actually that hard to write, so I mean I can show you some of my simple ones and how I created them, because they're really quite simple when you know what you're doing. Why are those tests not running? Right, image editor, rectangle hotspot. See, now it's showing green. Now that's showing green. Right, returns nil if in view test. Editing bound. Are they not even being run? Where is test plan? Test plan. Oh, because the Coppice core tests are displayed there. Okay, let's do a run of this. Okay, and nil if in view mode. Started. Fast. Why does it not show a tick? Does a tick there. I have no idea what this symbol means. Okay. Well, yeah. Oh yeah, you need time. I mean, this is partly why I've done these first. So I can get these written out. But what I will do is I will show you. If I bring up my Core Graphics plus M3 extensions test and my Core Graphics plus M3 extensions. So I've written a bunch of these tests, and some of these are incredibly basic to the point where I probably don't technically need a test, but I stuck them in anyway because they're incredibly basic. There's almost no point having one. So for example, I have just here, which is a CG point identity thing, which just returns CG point 11. And what you basically do is you create your test target. If it isn't already in your project, you just go here, add, and then unit testing bundle. That will add everything in as a separate target. If I go back here, far back. So in Coppice Core, this is just added down here as Coppice Core tests. And then all you need to do then is add your test files. And for that, unit test case class, you just create it, subclass of XC test in whatever language you want, and then you add it in. And all you really need to do is first import what you're testing. So I'm importing Coppice Core here. Generally want to add the @testable thing in front of it. And what that basically does is it changes internal to public. And that is useful because quite often you have functions inside of a module that you want to test but aren't public. This is a lot more common in an app than it is in a framework. Because in a framework, generally you're marking things as public, whereas in an app, you're generally not using public, you're just using internal. So that's important. And then all you're effectively doing is setting up your test, running the test, and then asserting the state afterwards. So in this case, like setting it up and running it is pretty simple because I just call CG point identity, and then I'm using an XCT assert equal to make sure it's equal to that. If I go a bit further down, here I have CG point distance to other point, which is basically just doing some basic trigonometry. But what this does is we get the first point, get the other point, and then we just make sure that the distance between them is equal to 5. So at the most basic, it is incredibly simple to do. It's just very tedious. If I go back to the test I was working on, where am I? So, for example, here, I created myself a nice function, create hotspot, where I pass in a shape and a mode. So that here, this creates my rectangle hotspot. I've not set the drag, so we can ignore all that. It just returns it. So I get that there. And then I just call the hit test method on it at various points to assert that if I call it with this point, is it true? And with this point, is it true? And so on. So this is just a bit more advanced side of thing. When I get down to the drag stuff, down here, I'm creating the hotspot, but now I'm passing in this drag thing. So this is me just simplifying stuff where I can basically create this hotspot and perform the drag operation with just 3 arguments. I mean, technically more because this is a struct with stuff, but it keeps things simple. And again, I get it out and I assert. And in this case, I'm cheating a bit by doing 2 different tests. Now let's see. So when you write a new function, do you sometimes write temporary code to be able to run the function before it's all finished? Look for the code in the debugger and see that it does the right thing. Basically, you can test of taking that code and saving it so you can run it again afterwards. Yeah, that is a good way of thinking about it. It is basically just a case of, oh, I am going to pass this in and make sure that the result is correct. Now, this does get a lot more complicated when you get onto things. So one thing with unit tests is make ample use of helper functions, because I mean, if I show you somewhere I've had to do something custom, stuff like this here, if I had to do this for every single one of these tests, it is a bit much. So I have this helper function where the vast majority of the tests, they're all doing basically the same thing. It's some shape with some base rect in some mode, and then maybe some drag operation. And the drag operation, it may be a down event, or there is a down event, there may be a dragged event, there may be a second dragged event, and then an up event. And because almost all the tests are using that, I'm able to hide all the stuff that's actually going on in the helper function, so that when I actually call these, like up here, I'm just calling it here and this works. They're all using the same standard rectangle for the most part, so I can just throw in some numbers that I know will be there, and then I can do this here, test with the drag, and just pass in the thing. So I know that, okay, I'm creating an oval in edit mode with a start point, minimum x, minimum y, and the delta x is going to be -10. And then I can do this here. One thing I really recommend when you're doing tests is to actually write out a bunch of the test names beforehand, because that helps you think about what you need to test. So the way I do it is you need to prefix them with tests so that XCTest will run them, but then I do underscore and then whatever the method or whatever the type is. So for example here, I'm testing image hotspot, so I prefix it with image hotspot. For here, I'm testing the functionality of resizing left because it's split over multiple multiple methods. But then I say, what does it do? Usually when I'm doing something like this, I try to do like, what is the return value if in this state? What is return value if in this other state, and so on? Or what is the effect? Really, if I was following that correctly, it should be decreases x and increases width if moving to the left, or something like that. But basically just do your test section, and then you want the name to say either the condition and then the end result, or the end result and then the condition. And once you get that in there, it helps you understand the test a lot more. Because to be frank, you're not going to read this and know what this is. You want to be able to see, oh, this has failed, and it's failed. Moving to the left decreases x and increases width. Okay, that's good. Ideally, you don't want to be looking at this again most of the time until it fails. And honestly, it's just a case of just start, do stuff. There are things that you'll get into that are complex. I mean, for example, mocking will get a bit complex. Here, I need to test that this is calling into the layout engine. Well, for that, I've had to mock this, and for mocking this, I've had to subclass it and then utilize this code that I've got here that does all the details stuff. That takes a while to learn, and unfortunately is harder in Swift than it was in Objective-C. Objective-C had a really nice framework called OC Mock, and that handled a lot of this, was incredibly powerful. You could do all sorts of stuff. You didn't have to like subclass objects and so on. So Objective-C made this a lot easier. I mean, for one thing, you could pass an object of a completely different type in to a method and it would just work, whereas the compiler does not allow that in Swift. But that is incredibly useful when you're testing and you want to pass something in. Duck typing can really help a lot with testing. So you have to utilize things like protocols and stuff a bit more, or subclassing stuff a bit more, and it's a bit more awkward, a bit less tidy in Swift. But it's, as with all things, it's just start writing some simple tests. A key thing is don't feel like you need to test everything. Think about effectively you want to go for the biggest bang for the buck. So, I mean, if I just do a full test run, I can show you my test coverage. Because this is a nice thing that can happen if it runs through everything. Okay, so that has finished. If I switch over to coverage, so here you can see libm3 subscriptions. That is my for handling, API for handling subscriptions. That has about 50% test coverage. That is possibly not sure. Yeah, that might be because some of it is like fairly hard to test stuff, at least in terms of like unit tests. But if you look, Coppice app only has 19% test coverage, and that's because a lot of it is UI stuff. The bits that I'm testing are stuff like my view models. So if we go down to our image editor rectangle hotspot, you see, oh, we've got 92%, 93% here. But the placeholder view is 0% because testing views is a bit harder. So the actual app, I haven't got a lot of tests on. But for the Coppice core, I'm at 90%. And that is because this contains all my extensions. So extensions to arrays, I've got extensions to, I mean, I've shown you the core graphics ones, NSEdge insets. So anything like extensions to existing classes are great things to test. If you're doing MVVM, any view models are generally great to test. All of my data objects are tested. The model infrastructure, the reading and writing from disk, that is all unit tested heavily, because that is something that I absolutely need to know if something breaks there. And it is like the highest risk, but also it's generally easier to test. I mean, this is the key thing. The stuff that is generally the highest risk and the stuff you want to test more is often the stuff that is easier to test, because it is model code, it is backend code, it is algorithms that are doing complex stuff. I mean, for example, I have my entire layout engine for the canvas is all abstracted away, much like we're doing here with the editor, where I've abstracted away the events and so on, and I've created these event contexts that handle things. I've got the full layout engine, stuff for laying out arrows and stuff like that. That is all unit tested. Like all this stuff controlling how events come in and then modify stuff that can then be used by the UI, it's all unit tested, because that is a key part of the app. It's a complex part of the app, and it just gives me that additional safety. Whereas stuff like a custom control, I don't unit test at all. So it's a key thing about picking your battles, and you want to be going for like high coverage of your backend code, your model code, anything that is a complex algorithm, but probably low coverage on the UI side, because at that point you can do UI tests, and I only have a few. In fact, I can show some of them if anyone's interested. Where are my UI tests? Coppice UI test. So this is what some UI tests look like. So if I bring up the welcome screen. So this is, I've got copies here. So this is this welcome screen here. And what this does is the first one is I open the window and I make sure that it's showing the correct version in here. So I extract it. I open the window, wait for it to come into existence. I get the current bundle version, and then I look for the static text version label and make sure that it has the correct value. Can make sure that it can't be resized. For that, I'm just effectively checking, is the zoom button disabled? New button creates a new document. So I get the app Windows matching document window.count, just so that I know in case there are an existing documents open for some reason. Then open the welcome window, I get the new button, I click it, and then I make sure, like, get the count again of document windows, and then I make sure that it's incremented by 1. That the open panel shows an open dialog, and that the tour button opens the tour window. So those are some basic things. I mean, I've done these for this, for the tour, and for the help viewer. I want to add some more for a lot of this stuff. I would like to start adding some of these UI tests for this hotspot stuff at some point. So that would be a fun thing to play around with. But for stuff like this, UI tests are a lot better because they cover a lot more of your code with a lot fewer stuff. And the thing is, Xcode can actually potentially record these for you. Like, you can see this record button down here, and it can actually, you click through the app and it will record the stuff for you. So that's quite cool. So I can show that off when we get around to doing that sort of thing. So, oh, hi Steve. Glad you can make it. How are you doing today? Ah yes, the daily doom scrolling. Get that out the way early. Right, where are we? Rectangle hotspots. So all of those are working. Image hotspot returns the correct image hotspot. So switch soft dot mode. Case create. And now case view. Edit, we return an image hotspot. Which dot. Now the points are going to be S dot oval and rectangle points of dot val oval, and the points be PG point. I could do self.rect point at n at max min at max max, and at min max. So now this should hopefully work. Okay, so this is failing. Why is that? Oh, because it's in view mode. The edit. By the way, Stephen Uli, what do you think of my new stream setup? Now that it is all implemented and working. I'm quite pleased with how everything has turned out on the left-hand side. Yeah, the task list is nice to have. That is literally just, if I can bring it over here, it's just an on the outline document that I've styled so that it fits in correctly. And then the chat is just stream elements, and the thing at the top is just a video that I actually that I can probably show you. It's just a keynote presentation that I've created and then exported as video that I play as a source in OBS. So that is just sitting in the top, which means that it's easy to add to and just re-export later. And I've made sure that all of my character models all blink. And the one that I'm most proud of, the little sleep sort of breathes slowly in and out. You can see the screen pulsing a bit like the Apple logo and like the power button used to do. So I'm pretty happy with how all that has worked out, but yeah, it works pretty well. I can also, if I need the full screen, just have it slide off to the side and then slide back in when needed. So I'm pretty pleased with how everything is starting to come together. It's starting to look pretty good. So yeah, I'm very happy with the stream. Oh, it's a bit too subtle. Yeah, if your screen's dark, it may be a bit too subtle, but it's just getting a bit lighter and a bit darker. I mean, I did want it to be like a subtle thing. Oh, the slide effect. So that in OBS, I have everything in a sidebar group. If I just bring this over, we're gonna get some infinity mirrors. But if I bring this over, you can see down. Oh no, you can't because the sidebar's there. You can see down here. I have the sidebar down here, and if I show it, it comes in. Hide it, it slides away. So the way I've done that is you just go show transition, and you can choose what you want the show transition to be. In fact, let's increase that to half a second and the hide to half a second. So you can use these show transitions when you right click on something. So because I have this on the whole sidebar, it just shows and hides. I don't know if you actually... Yeah, unfortunately you can't do like ease in, ease out, but you just can set transitions whenever something shows or hides. So that is basically how you get that working. And then I've got a button on my Stream Deck that just shows and hides the sidebar. So you can actually get some fairly advanced transitions. I think you can get transitions that you import in and do like some really advanced animations, but because it's a sidebar, I figured just a simple wipe in, wipe out works pretty well, especially as it's not like a full scene transition. Right, so we have our editing handle Rex done. Now we get to resizing. Okay, this is where things are going to fall apart. Alright, so events. Actually, how did I that far? I created a struct. Yeah, drag state. So initial back. Right. I'm going to need a drag handle, aren't I? Right. What we'll do for now is we'll just implement the top left handle, and then we'll shift this all out into drag handle stuff afterwards, because we can get all of them moving, the top left resizing and stuff in. I mean, we could just do which edges are selected. We wouldn't need a drag rect. So var wait. No. Dragged H edge. Dragged edge. Or dragged edge. Dragged edge. Oh, thanks much, Ruby. Thank you very much for joining the stream, and yeah, hope you have a good rest of your day, good evening, and yeah, if you ever have any more questions about unit testing, then feel free just to come in, and once you've tried things, you've got questions, I'm happy to answer any questions on stream about testing. I'm not the world's best expert, but I mean, if I had this, Coppice Core has nearly 1,000 tests. I mean, if I do a line count, I think Coppice is about 25,000 lines of code, and then there's another 25,000 lines of tests. So I may not be an expert, but I have a decent amount of experience writing tests. But yeah, hope you have a great evening, and thanks again for coming. That needs to be that. So, what we need to do is find out we need to work out the type of drag. And we could just have a type enum, a kind enum. Yeah, kind size top left, size top right, size bottom left, size bottom right, this move. And we can get rid of all this, and it's just kind. So a down event, right, so we've got the editing handle rec. So what we need to do really need, so I can either get the editing handle recs and always assume that it's going from top left clockwise, and those are the handles that match up, or I could put them in explicit variables. I think I'm going to put them in explicit variable. So let's create a private var No. Right. Bottom left. Bottom. That bottom right, bottom left. We can rotate them round where they're meant to be. So this is going to be max X. This is going to be max X. Patrick, thanks for following. Hope you're enjoying the stream. That's going to be a max Y, that's going to be max Y. And then for this, we can just return self dot top left handle, self dot top right handle, self dot bottom handle, self dot bottom left handle, compact map. I think you can. So we have all our handles, and if we just do a compact, basically when it's edit mode there'll be something there, so it'll be fine. Otherwise all those go away and it becomes an empty array. So that is how we get around there. And then in here we need to do oh, do we want to do it that way? No, let's not do it that way. That's been a bit too clever. Let's get rid of awkward here. Let's pseudocode this. So what do we need to do? When you get a down event to the point, we need to know, is it, well, in view mode, for now, do nothing, but eventually evoke URL. In create mode, we want to start the drag, and it is a resize bottom right. It's always going to be a resize bottom right. Edit mode, we want to get we have some stuff to do. If we're on a resize handle, start resizing. If elsewhere inside, then move. So we're going to want to switch, then we're going to want work out what kind of interaction we've got at this point. And then we want to record it. Okay, so if we do a private func drag kind at point. Switch self dot. Oh. So it's create. We okay. So if we create, we want to return a resize bottom right, because we're always going to be using that handle. If we're a case view, this needs to be an optional so that we can return a nil. If case edit, then we need to start checking some sizes and so on. So the first thing we need to do is if I'm going to need to have a think, and if I'm going to be going for an hour longer than usual, I'm also going to need a quick break as well. So I'm going to have a quick break, have a think, and we'll be back in a few minutes where we can get this finished off, because I think I'm going to have to redo this bit again. I have some ideas for a better approach for this. So I will see you all in a few minutes. I have just realised that I've had my microphone up while I was explaining all that. So I managed to unmute one thing but did not the other. So the reason we're doing this is we have our we can have our drag state linked to our rect. Now, why not a dictionary? Well, we don't really need that. We never really just need to get one of these. We need to iterate through them to find out what they are. So the reason I've done these in this particular order, rather than going like top left and then going clockwise to top right, bottom left, is that we have some tests down here to handle some edge cases. So if the height is too small, we should always favor the bottom rect. If the width is too small, we should always favor the right handle. So what this is going to do is this ensures that if we were to iterate through these, we always go for the bottom right over any of these other ones if they overlap. We're always going to go for the so we're always going to go for the bottom over the top. We're always going to go for the right over the left. So that should allow us to iterate through this and get that out. And what we can do here is we can switch soft dock mode and we'll go back to doing a view, I'll create, return, empty, and case edit, we're just going to return soft dock editing handled by drag kind map. We're going to just map $0.1, which should map and just return our rect. Though actually, the editing handle rect, yeah, we don't care about the order being top left clockwise because that is only needed here where we're creating these directly. You wish there was an animation app in the style of Macromedia Director, modernized to be more like Keynote so that one could use for motion graphics. Yeah, Keynote is really good. I have wondered whether motion is good enough for that or whether that is a bit too like advanced, getting into the realm like After Effects level motion graphics. I do actually use Hype for my the animations that you see during the Be Right Back screen and the Starting Soon screen. They were created in Hype because I actually have those on the website. So Hype is fairly good there. It does have a slight problem, which in when you export videos, the color accuracy is not quite right. So I've had to do some tricks there to try and get those to blend in. But I mean, Hype is pretty good. But that's only really if you're doing stuff where it would be working on the web anyway. But I do wonder whether motion is worth it. I mean, now that I'm start to do a lot more video stuff, and especially if I start cutting stuff up for YouTube and stuff, I am partially wondering whether I want to finally get around to getting Final Cut Pro. It may be overkill for what I need, but it's like iMovie can be a bit limiting for what I need as well. So I'm wondering if I should do that, and if I get that, whether I should get motion as well to play around with that. So I might end up playing around with those a bit and seeing what they're like, but we will see. Yeah, a lot of these like advanced motion graphics apps can feel kind of awkward. Like I've tried to look into After Effects, and it's like, I mean, I sort of get how After Effects works, but it still feels like for animation, I'm used to something like Director or Flash. Something like that that's a lot more simple. It's not, whereas things like Motion and After Effects are a lot more, you've got the compositing elements of it on top of the motion graphics elements of it, on top of, like, you can do point tracking and stuff like that. So they're quite advanced and quite hard to get into. But I mean, that is the case with a lot of advanced graphics software. Like at some point I want to get back into 3D graphics, and I'll probably look at Blender, but Blender is kind of awkward to learn if you're not used to how it works. But I mean, that's the case of a lot of 3D apps. I've struggled trying to learn Cinema 4D, I've struggled trying to learn Maya. The only 3D app I've ever really gelled with in the past has actually been Strata. And that's because it is designed to work very much like an Adobe app. I mean, it also helped that my dad used Strata a lot in his work, so I was able to learn that. So I mean, if I was to ever go into something like Maya or something, because my dad and my brother both use those in their work, I could probably learn it that way. But I feel like Blender will be a fun one to learn, so I'll probably look into that at some point in the future. But yeah, I'm thinking of playing around with Final Cut Pro just to see what it is like and how good it is for, like I say, what I'm doing is probably going to be maybe a bit overkill, but you never know. And it's one of those things of Apple seems to be perfectly happy with people buying it and then never charging an upgrade fee for it. So it's not like I'm gonna buy it and never use it. I'm just gonna underutilize it. And the other thing is I can claim it as it'll be a business expense because I'll be doing it for all this streaming stuff, which is for Coppice. So it's just whether I want to splash out £250 on it. Right, so that is getting that image hotspot. So what we can do here is when we get to edit, or kind point kind rect in self dot editing handle rect by kind. If rect dot contains point, turn kind. Or if that fails, if self dot editing bounds path dot contains point equals true, return move, otherwise return nil because we're no longer in the point. So at that point we can get let kind equals drag guard so that current drag state is nil, else turn. Self.current drag state equals at drag kind self.drag kind at point. We get the point, we get self.rect, and we get the drag kind, and then we are done. The up event we can effectively just do self.current drag state equals nil. We are going to need to do selection now. And finish up creation. But if we go here, we want to guard let drag state current drag state or return. Okay. So we want to do adjust the left, then adjust the right, then adjust the top, then adjust the bottom. So if we do if case move equals drag state dot kind, that should do about is top ball switch self. I hate when it doesn't do the auto completions, which is technically 90% of the time. Should be unkind. So if case move equals drag state can then move. I'm gonna return because we're not doing anything else. Otherwise, if drag state kind is left, then we'll do that. Else drag state dot kind is right. Do that. If drag state.kind is top, then we'll adjust the top. Else if drag state dot right. Actually, I think my brain has just hit a wall. So what I'm going to do is, rather than go an hour later, I'm going to end it at 5 as originally planned, but I think I'm going to leave it there and come back and sort this out on Saturday, because it has been a long day, a long weekend. I've actually got an awful lot done over the past 4 days. From improving the stream to getting all this fleshed out, to getting tests written for all this and getting it half implemented. I think I deserve an evening off. So I want to thank you all for coming. If you haven't already, I hope you will follow. It allows you to get notified whenever I go live. Over the weekend, I did do some impromptu streams. So while the Coppice Dev stream is, as the schedule says, this week on Monday and Saturday, that doesn't rule out me doing other impromptu streams at other times. But yes, if you can give me a follow, that helps out a lot. And beyond that, I hope you all have a fantastic week. If you haven't managed to catch the whole of this stream, the VOD will be up soon after and will be up on YouTube later this week. But have a fantastic week. Hope you get a lot done, and happy coding.